Welcome to Energy Insights, your trusted source for exploring the latest developments in the global energy transition. Today, we delve into a pivotal development crucial for Japan and its impact on Southeast Asia, Japan's significant increase in liquefied natural gas (LNG) imports from the United States. This strategic move, heralded as a milestone in Japan and U.S. relations, promises enhanced energy security for Japan, but poses questions about its broader implications. While Japan positions this agreement as a step toward stabilizing its energy supply, a deeper examination suggests reliance on a fossil fuel that conflicts with global decarbonisation trends. As we see a push towards renewable energies worldwide, does this strategy represent a pragmatic bridge or a setback in Japan's climate commitments? In today's episode, we'll unpack the nuances of this LNG deal. We'll assess the strategic rationale behind Japan's decision, explore its potential repercussions for regional energy dynamics in Southeast Asia, and consider what this means for Japan's environmental targets. If you're keen to understand how this deal could shape the energy landscape in a region pivotal to global emissions, stay tuned. In a landmark meeting earlier this month, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and U.S. President Donald Trump agreed that Japan will buy unprecedented levels of LNG from the U.S. This deal, framed as a strategic move to strengthen bilateral ties and secure Japan's energy future, has sparked a heated debate. Critics argue it could undermine Japan's environmental commitments and influence energy strategies across Southeast Asia. Today, we unpack the layers of this complex issue to understand the motivations behind the deal and its potential consequences. To fully appreciate the context of this landmark agreement between Japan and the United States, it's crucial to delve into the multifaceted challenges and strategic considerations that influence the negotiations. Today, we dissect the layers behind this significant energy pact, looking closely at the geopolitical, economic, and environmental factors at play. Japan's energy landscape has been at a crossroads, marked by an aging nuclear fleet that has stirred public and political apprehension since the Fukushima disaster in 2011. This incident not only reshaped Japan's energy policy, but also heightened its pursuit for diversified and safer energy sources. In parallel, the global momentum towards decarbonization has been accelerating, compelling nations worldwide, including Japan, to rethink their energy dependencies. In steps Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who found himself navigating these turbulent waters. The backdrop of his meeting with President Donald Trump was not just about securing energy, it was also about safeguarding Japan's economy against a backdrop of increasing global trade tensions. The USA, under Trump's administration, had become notorious for leveraging tariffs as a tool for renegotiating trade terms to favor American interests. Partners like the EU, Canada, and even China had felt the pinch of these policies, which threatened to destabilize long-standing economic relationships. During their strategic dialogues, Ishiba articulated a vision for Japan's energy future that strongly emphasized the need for reliable and ostensibly cleaner energy options. LNG from the US was presented as a fitting solution, touted for its lower carbon emissions compared to coal and oil. Ishiba argued that these imports would not only help Japan diversify its energy mix, but also enhance its energy security in a volatile world. On the flip side, President Trump positioned the deal as a quintessential win for American gas exports, while addressing the substantial trade deficit between Japan and the United States. He suggested that the LNG agreement could swiftly mitigate the imbalance, which stood at a staggering $100 billion. By linking energy trade with economic strategy, Trump was keen on showcasing this deal as a triumph in his broader economic agenda, reinforcing the U.S. role as a dominant energy exporter in the process. The discussions were therefore layered with complex motivations: Japan's urgent need to diversify its energy sources and stabilize its supply chains against potential economic threats, and the U.S. aim to bolster its economic standing through energy exports. This multifaceted backdrop sets the stage for a deal that was as much about international diplomacy and economic strategy as it was about energy. As we move forward, we'll continue to explore how this agreement aligns with Japan's broader energy goals and its implications on global and regional scales. Stay tuned as we unpack more about the dynamics of this pivotal energy agreement. As we delve deeper into Japan's decision to ramp up LNG imports, it's essential to frame this within the broader context of Japan's national energy strategy. This strategy is multifaceted, aiming not only to diversify energy sources following the Fukushima nuclear disaster, but also to enhance the country's commitment to reducing its carbon footprint. However, the pivot towards increased LNG usage presents a paradox in Japan's environmental narrative. Japan has traditionally relied heavily on nuclear power, which, while controversial, provides a high energy output with low greenhouse gas emissions. The catastrophic events at Fukushima in 2011, however, forced a national reevaluation of this dependency. In its stead, Japan has been pushing towards an energy mix that increases the share of renewable sources like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power. The goal is ambitious to elevate renewables to provide around 24% of the country's power by 2030. But there's a gap that needs filling, especially with the intermittent nature of renewable sources and the current technological limitations in energy storage. This is where LNG comes into the picture. Positioned as a bridge fuel, LNG is indeed cleaner than coal and oil, emitting fewer particulates and less sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. However, it's crucial to underscore that LNG is not devoid of environmental impacts. The process of liquefying natural gas is energy intensive, and when you consider the full life cycle of LNG, from extraction to transport, it's associated with significant methane emissions. Methane, a potent greenhouse gas, has a global warming potential many times greater than that of carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. Furthermore, the infrastructure required to handle LNG, which includes the construction of liquefaction plants, storage facilities, and dedicated terminals, demands substantial capital investment. These facilities not only have long lifespans, but also entail long-term financial commitments, which could potentially tether Japan to fossil fuel dependency far longer than some might anticipate. This infrastructural lock imposes a serious question. Are we merely cementing our reliance on fossil fuels under the guise of transition? Critics argue that this strategy may indeed be at odds with Japan's proclaimed environmental goals. While the government has set a target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions significantly by 2030 and ultimately achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, the increased integration of LNG could hinder these targets. This is especially concerning given the urgent global push towards decarbonization as stipulated in international agreements like the Paris Accord. There's also a larger, often under-discussed aspect of environmental impact, the socio-economic dimensions of LNG projects. These projects are not just about pipelines and terminals, they affect local communities, ecosystems, and can lead to displacement and habitat loss. The question remains, is the environmental cost of such projects being fully accounted for in the strategic calculations? As we continue to explore the complexities of Japan's energy strategy, it's clear that the decision to increase LNG imports is a nuanced one, laden with potential environmental consequences that might ripple out for decades. In our next segment, we'll examine how these decisions align with global energy trends and what they mean for Japan's leadership on the global environmental stage. Let's explore how Japan's strategic energy maneuvers resonate across the broader Southeast Asian landscape. The implications of Japan's increased LNG imports are significant, with potential to reshape energy policies far beyond its own shores. As Japan secures larger volumes of LNG, not all of it is destined for domestic consumption. Given Japan's existing infrastructure and the scale of incoming supplies, it's likely that a portion of this LNG will be redirected to markets where energy demand continues to grow, namely Southeast Asia. This redirection is not merely a matter of surplus management, it forms part of a strategic approach to energy distribution in the region. This could have a dual effect on Southeast Asia's energy strategy. On one hand, access to additional LNG supplies could provide these countries with a more diverse energy mix and potentially enhance their energy security. On the other hand, it risks skewing regional energy strategies towards continued fossil fuel dependence. This is particularly concerning as it could slow down the momentum towards renewable energy adoption, which is crucial for sustainable development and climate mitigation in the region. The environmental repercussions are equally significant. Southeast Asia is a region acutely vulnerable to the effects of climate change, from rising sea levels affecting low-lying coastal communities to increased frequency and severity of weather events. By increasing dependency on LNG, which still emits greenhouse gases, the region may find its efforts to combat climate change compromised. Economically, the influx of Japanese LNG could present challenges as well. While initially it might seem like a boon for energy-hungry economies, over-reliance on imported LNG could lead to economic vulnerabilities. These include exposure to global price fluctuations and potential long-term contracts that may not favor the buyer as market dynamics shift towards cheaper renewable technologies. Moreover, the shift towards LNG could divert financial resources and political focus away from investments in renewable energy infrastructure like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power systems, which are not only more sustainable but increasingly cost-effective. The risk here is that Southeast Asian nations could lock themselves into an outdated energy paradigm, just as the rest of the world begins to transition aggressively towards greener alternatives. There is also a broader geopolitical dimension to consider. Japan's move could be seen as an attempt to exert influence over the energy landscapes of its neighboring countries, shaping their energy policies and aligning them more closely with its own strategic interests. This could have long-lasting implications for the regional power dynamics and for each country's sovereignty over its energy future. As we wrap up this segment, it's clear that while Japan's decision to ramp up LNG imports may address some of its immediate energy security concerns, it casts a long shadow over Southeast Asia. The choices made today will reverberate through the region for decades, influencing not just energy consumption patterns, but also economic policies, environmental strategies, and regional diplomatic relationships. As we delve deeper into Japan's strategic decision to significantly boost its LNG imports from the United States, it's essential to understand the broader economic and political dynamics that underpin this move. Today, we explore how this agreement fits within Japan's wider strategy to enhance its energy security and geopolitical stature on the global stage. Japan's reliance on energy imports has long been a vulnerability, with a substantial portion of its oil and gas coming from the Middle East and Russia. These regions are often marred by political instability and geopolitical tensions that can pose risks to energy security. By securing a substantial and steady supply of LNG from the US, Japan not only diversifies its energy sources, but also reduces its exposure to these volatile energy markets. This strategic diversification is particularly poignant in the current geopolitical climate, where energy security is increasingly intertwined with national security. LNG, with its global trade routes and flexible market dynamics, offers Japan a form of energy that can be more securely sourced and, importantly, from a close ally. This shift is indicative of Japan's strategic realignment towards ensuring that its energy supplies are not just secure, but also strategically advantageous. Politically, the deal serves to reinforce the alliance between Japan and the United States, providing a counterbalance to the growing influence of China in the Asia-Pacific region. This agreement not only strengthens economic ties, but also sends a strong signal about the depth of the strategic partnership between the two nations. However, this approach has its detractors. Critics argue that the focus on LNG imports prioritizes short-term geopolitical and economic gains over more sustainable, long-term goals. Environmentalists point out that the large-scale investment in LNG infrastructure could lock Japan into decades of fossil fuel use, at a time when the global community is moving towards more sustainable energy solutions. The financial implications are significant as well. Investing heavily in LNG infrastructure, including ports, pipelines, and storage facilities, requires enormous capital expenditure. There is a concern that these investments might divert resources away from renewable energy projects like solar, wind, and hydro, which are crucial not just for reducing carbon emissions, but also for fostering long-term sustainable development. Furthermore, These investments in fossil fuel infrastructure come at a time when the cost of renewables is continually decreasing. This raises economic concerns about the potential for stranded assets, where LNG facilities become obsolete or unprofitable as cheaper and cleaner technologies take precedence. This scenario underscores the complex interplay between ensuring immediate energy security and aligning with broader environmental goals that necessitate a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Japan's strategy, therefore, reflects a delicate balancing act between these competing priorities. As we wrap up this discussion, it's clear that Japan's LNG strategy is more than just an energy policy. It's a nuanced strategy influenced by a complex web of geopolitical, economic, and environmental factors. The decisions made today will have implications that reach far beyond the immediate future, shaping Japan's energy landscape and its role on the world stage for decades to come. As we draw today's discussion to a close, we reflect on the complex layers of Japan's decision to ramp up LNG imports from the United States. This decision is not just a footnote in the annals of energy policy, but a significant move with deep ramifications for Japan and its neighbors in Southeast Asia. Japan's strategy to enhance its energy security by diversifying its energy sources is understandable from a geopolitical standpoint. Aligning more closely with the US in energy trade strengthens Japan's position in a volatile international arena and reduces its reliance on less stable regions. However, this move also places Japan at a crossroads in terms of its environmental commitments. The environmental implications of increased reliance on LNG are significant. While LNG burns cleaner than coal, it is still a fossil fuel, and the entire supply chain from extraction to transportation contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. This raises critical questions about Japan's ability to meet its ambitious carbon reduction targets and its role in the global effort to combat climate change. Moreover, the impact of this decision extends beyond Japan's borders, influencing the energy strategies and environmental policies of Southeast Asian countries. By potentially increasing their dependency on imported LNG, Japan may be shaping the regional energy market in ways that could slow the transition to renewable sources, which are crucial for sustainable development and climate resilience. This brings us to an important juncture. What does this mean for the future of energy in Asia? Is Japan's increased investment in LNG a pragmatic interim solution to energy security concerns? Or is it a strategic misstep that could hinder broader environmental goals? The balance between immediate energy needs and long-term sustainability is a delicate one. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. If you found this episode insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest in the energy transition. For more in-depth analysis and updates, visit our website at energytracker.asia. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on Energy Insights.